Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Impact Litigation Immigration Update. I'm Chuck Cook. Greg Ziskin, the ever gorgeous Aaron Hall. Yes, ladies, he's married and unavailable. And his little guy was in the room a little while ago. It was good to see him. He's a cute little guy. How old is he, Aaron?
Got a 5-year-old.
Sweet. I love 5-year-olds. They're so awesome. I had my gaggle of grandkids on Saturday. Sunday was great. It's like, it was great. Every time they leave, we have to wash all our windows because I love sticking their face into the windows. It must be a 5-year-old thing. I don't know what it is. So let's get started here today. Aaron, I want to talk about Go first. So Jeff will probably be joining us. What we're going to do is we're going to put up the title of what we're talking about so that people can, then you search us later, they can find what they're looking for without listening to the whole thing. So Aaron, where are we on Go versus Blinken?
Yeah, so and I think the way that it'll work if you're starting from now is if you put your cursor over the timeline along the bottom. If you're watching later, you can find the banner and click on that you're interested in. So we'll see how this works. Hopefully, well. Big week in Go. Last week we filed the amended complaint that added a number of plaintiffs. As we explained before, that didn't affect the expedited briefing schedule that's already been agreed to and that the judge approved. And so the next big step is that there is an administrative record going to be filed on May 21st, along with a number of government motions. And then we will be filing our motions 2 weeks later. After all the briefing, there's a hearing already set for July 13th at 2 p.m. And the decision could be any time after that. One thing I wanted to note is that Go plaintiffs got an email asking to complete an update form online with a little bit of information. That is being used to populate a spreadsheet. So we need that information, even if you've already given it to us in an email a while ago or a declaration. It really helps us if you fill out that update and use the form so that it automatically populates. What that's going to be used for is providing a full spreadsheet of plaintiffs and case numbers to the government attorneys, which can be later used if we have success in your case to make sure that our plaintiffs are given their interviews and get their visas adjudicated. So we need to have that form, that spreadsheet complete and accurate. And so please go ahead and do that if you haven't done so already.
Yeah, the government has to know that who you are. I mean, they have your names, but it's so much easier their case number and your location because they can also make sure the KCC, which some of you are done with and many of you are not, can find your physical cases. Now, here's what's curious to me. Are there physical files at the KCC? I mean, we know there's physical files because immigration keeps physical files in the 21st century. So are they creating a physical file? And are they really trying to find one file out of 130,000? I mean, really, let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope it's all electronic. But really essential, if you got the email and Go, essential that you go to the Google Doc and put your information in.
We're getting a pretty good response. We have, I think, 560 people that have filled out. Now, I know a couple of people have done it more than once because they were worried they made a mistake or something like that. So it's not really 560 people, but we're probably about 75% of the way there.
You know, in case you didn't know this, if you think you did it, but you don't know if you did, you can hit Alt F and search your name, and you will find yourself, so you don't have to duplicate it.
One other thing on that piece is some people have emailed saying that they know that the email went out and that they know that they're Go plaintiffs, but they didn't get it. Number one, check your spam filter. Number two, if it's not there, there's a few people that I've seen their email on our distribution lists. I know that it should have gone out, and I don't know why they haven't received it. And so you may need to provide us an alternate email if you haven't gotten it. So
let me see if I can find a link that we can just show here that will make it easy for people if they didn't get the email.
Well, we don't want to do that, Greg, because we don't want other people just putting their information on. So,
all right, good point.
Yeah, so we don't want to do. Oh, look at this! We've got Jeff Joseph is joining us, and my newest associate, Waleed Nasser, who doesn't even have a picture up yet. Waleed, you better figure out how to put your video on. There he is. There he is. Welcome to Waleed. It's great having him with us.
Hello,
Well,
Waleed.
if you haven't met Waleed, this is Waleed. It's super great to have him here.
Great to
And
be
we're
here.
excited. So we just been finishing talking about Go. Now we're going to get this question, Aaron. What was the thing the government filed today? In case you didn't know it, what the government filed today is we agreed to let the government have more pages to write. That's important because we are likely going to need more pages to write. So it has no impact on the case. It was a really good thing to do. It's called common courtesy. Now, the judge hasn't agreed to accept it yet, but I imagine that he will. So I think we're in pretty good shape. But that's what was filed today in Go. So I don't think there's really any other Go issues we need to talk about. That's kind of where we are. We don't know when the judge will rule. We hope it'll be shortly after the hearing on July 13th. Yes, we know that September 30th is the deadline. Yes, we are asking for all 55,000 visas to be reserved. Yes, we're only fighting for our plaintiffs, but it's good practice because our clients' numbers are everywhere to ask for all of them. So hopefully that answers your questions. That I'm sure will be.
Last thing on Go, which which is important for other cases as well. We know what's going on in Moscow, and that will be part of any order that we want is going to be asking the government, or is going to be ordering the government to adjudicate visas. I don't care, and I don't think Judge Mehta will care in his order whether that means use whatever staff you have in Moscow to make it happen, or facilitate a transfer to make it happen and promptly. So they can do one of those two things, but the current situation where they're just not processing visas at all in Moscow is not going to be acceptable.
Okay, so that's Go. Greg, quickly.
Yeah, in the private chat, I just sent you Michael McKay's email address, Chuck. If people didn't get the update form link, email Michael, and don't email anybody here because then we won't get our work done. But if you email Michael, he's the one that set the whole thing up, and he can take care of you.
This is the man. Waleed, you might not know this, but you went dark, man. Now you're back. Now you're back. The phone must be running out of battery.
Well, you need to stay on because you bring the age factor down for all of us.
Yeah, so it's a lot less gray here with Waleed and Aaron on this call. All right, we want to go to Milligan next. I know this is Jeff's favorite topic. He goes to sleep at night thinking about Milligan, wakes up in the morning thinking about the Milligan case.
I wake up in the middle of the night and read the plaintiffs, everything.
Jeff, before I have you update, I just want to thank everybody for filling out the spreadsheet when they get their visas because we're alerted to that, and lots of people are getting their visas. So, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, what do you think? 15 a day are getting their visas?
I think so. From all over the world, yeah.
How many emails? So today we saw Stockholm, Amsterdam, Warsaw, Frankfurt. What else? I think those are a couple of them. All right, so the government's reply is, or the government's motion to dismiss is in. It is being briefed by our office, and our response is due May 27th. So that's the next thing to look for on Milligan is that response. We have temporarily stopped doing the weekly case status reports on overall consulates because at this point there's a pattern and the government knows about it. So what we are doing is on egregious cases, while we're in this briefing period, we're just sending the egregious cases up to Joe on an individual basis. So if you have
an example of an egregious case, Jeff?
Yeah, so we had a client today that needs brain surgery on an aneurysm. That's a great case where there's no reason the consulate should be denying an expedite for a case like that. So surgeries, weddings, if you have wedding plans, if your date has been scheduled and you need to get here, things like that. I can't make promises, but I can promise you that I'm willing to escalate cases where there's a definite need.
And if you have a brain aneurysm, please let Jeff know.
Yeah.
That is one of the most egregious examples of government, complete abdication of human kindness.
Yes.
Not granting an expedite in that case. Absolutely outrageous.
And we raised it right to Joe, and he specifically acknowledged and said, I will call the government and I will specifically highlight the surgical issue in this one. So
So other than that, we're working on it, and the consulates. And yes, we know, as far as I know, Jeff, Manila hasn't issued anything under any of the Milligan plaintiffs, but Rio is moving on the Milligan plaintiffs, at least for those that they technically have. Remember, they're still waiting on the donkey to walk from Vermont or New Hampshire down to Brazil with your file. There is that problem that they're waiting on. So, and again, just both on Go for DV 2021 and K1s. If you're in Russia, you should be exercising your agency and trying to find some other place so that when the time comes, we can have that information from you and show the judges, look, our folks have bent over backwards to find some place to go, and state is not accommodating. All right. Anything else on Milligan we wanted to talk about today?
That's all for today, Chuck. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, let's go to Nunciato. We're back to Nunciato. This is the remaining 23 family-based and employment-based individuals. Aaron, you want to give us an update of what's going on there?
Sure. So the last week we had our response to the government's motion to dismiss due. It was filed. It explains to Judge Seaborg that the case is not moot because there is a lingering injury from the illegal proclamation that was instituted by Trump and not rescinded by Biden until February, and that injury is included in the second amended complaint. So what the opposition to the motion to dismiss does is it asks the judge to, number one, allow the second amended complaint that was filed in January to become the operative complaint, and number two, to deny the motion to dismiss by the government. The next step is in 2 weeks, the government has their reply due, and then after that, the judge will have all the briefing he needs, and we'll have a decision on the motion to dismiss.
All right, Aaron, sorry I had to step out for a second. We'll get to what I was just talking about in a second. But I think we have a good reason to stay in Nunciato. I do. I think the response paper was great. By the way, a factoid that just popped up on the Twitterverse is that the government lawyer in our case is a woman named Valerie Smith. Many of you in Nunciato heard her in arguments in the case. She apparently is now the government lawyer in the Jacob case that was brought up in our Go argument the other day with Judge Meda. So good luck to them is all I can say. But I think we've got a good argument to stay in, and I think you put that forward, and the government will reply. When is their reply due again? It's this week. It's right away, right?
It's 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks to reply.
So, and then we'll see whether the judge decides to have another hearing on the case. I hope he does. So great work on. I don't think there's anything else to talk about in Nunciato.
Yep.
And we are just. I mean, again, reiterate what Aaron said. We are following up with the government regularly on the individual cases. So you're not abandoned. We're working on it like we do with all our clients. All right, now comes a couple of interesting cases. This is the K1 Cairo and the family-based Cairo, where there was initial rush by the Egyptian consulate. They interviewed people, and then there's kind of been nothing. And we've also had them actually, hey, we're going to issue your visa, and then they admin process somebody, and they just haven't gotten the visa out. Jeff, you want to talk about that a little bit? Is you guys handling that?
Yeah, the only update we have on Yaqub, which is the K1 case, is that we were assigned a government attorney today, and his name is literally Johnny Walker III. So I think we're probably going to get together, send him a bottle of really good Walker Scotch, and hope that goes our way. You know,
I actually grew up with a kid named Johnny Walker. Pretty sure it's not the same person.
I wonder if these related. Seriously.
I don't know. I just think your parents must drink a lot of freaking whiskey.
Yeah, Johnny H. Walker III in Yaqub. So that's the only update I have.
Well, great. And what that gives us is the opportunity to reach out to him when we have these specific issues.
And we just found that out literally 2 minutes before this.
Just came on board. And family-based Cairo
hasn't been assigned to an attorney yet. It's been properly served, but hasn't been assigned to an attorney yet.
Maybe Mr. Walker will be the person. All right, let's skip to actually one that we know is having movement. Is K1 Rio. So K1 Rio, we know we would say the files are on the way. Have we gotten a government lawyer on that case, Jeff?
We have gotten a government lawyer.
That just came in as well, didn't it?
Lawyer. I think so, but I can't remember who it is.
I'm just going to kind of look at what that.
I can pull it up and see if we've gotten a lawyer on that one.
Take a look at that. We've got a lawyer. And again, the reason that's important is it allows us to talk to government counsel, which is something you obviously can't do. There isn't a lawyer on the case. So
Actually, I'm wrong. We have not been assigned.
We have not been assigned a lawyer on that case. All right, so there we go. But that's really all the update is. And again, we know Rio is moving people from the Milligan cases, and we expect that same continuation. And again, COVID is still terrible in Brazil. So, but at least the consulate's doing stuff, unlike our friends in India, who aren't among any lawsuits yet, who are just being screwed. I mean, consulates are just closed. They're not even trying in India. It's just really remarkable to me. All right, K1 Manila. We have filed it. I don't think we've gotten a lawyer in that case assigned yet. And the government has 60 days from when we filed, so they got a little bit of time left to get back to us. But there is, Jeff, I'm speculating here, but I have got to believe that leadership in D.C. has got to be talking to the consular chief there about literally their no movement policy. I mean, you would think that's got to be the case. And they have to understand we're going to get an administrative record in this case.
Right.
We're going to get their emails, the internal stuff here. We're going to get this stuff.
Well, that, and also in the Milligan case, in the government's brief on the motion to dismiss, they actually enter a footnote and cite every mandamus case that's pending right now. There's 98 of them around the country, which is actually less than or was it 98 or 68, Aaron?
I thought it was 68.
68, right. 68 pending around the country, which is less than I thought it would be. But I am proud to say we're like a quarter of them.
Actually, if you count all our plaintiffs, we're probably about 90% of them.
Right, exactly.
In that case. I thought it was very unique for them to say, Judge, they're getting sued. Well, the counter to that, of course, is going to be, do you want to know why they're getting sued, Judge?
Yeah.
So,
if something smells, it's probably
on fire. I mean, or it's a big pile of poop.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
We got that. I do want to talk about K1 Moscow. Actually, the quick interruption we just had here was my attorney Phil Cook, who's my son, but also an amazing attorney. And he said he literally for the last hour has been filing the lawsuit. So when you physically file a lawsuit, it's not like taking a piece of paper and just filing it. That's not how it works in the 21st century. You literally have to type in everybody's name. And he'd gotten to the end and put everything in alphabetically, and they're naming the wrong name plaintiff. Even though there's a lead plaintiff button, they're naming it wrong. So he has to literally retype everybody's name. He was in here apologizing, but we are announcing that we're filing the K1 Moscow right now, literally right now. So we'll have that later tonight. We'll put it up on the Twitter machine, and that'll be in. We'll serve it right away. We're going to go through the expedited service again. And then we will reach out. I don't mean you. Jeff's called Brian Hudak, the acting chief of the U.S. Attorney's Office on Civil Litigation, who's really, I mean, you talk to him. He's a delightful guy to deal with.
Really nice guy. Yeah.
And say, we'd love to know who's going to be the lawyer on this. We'll reach out next week after we get service done later this week in Washington D.C. So good news, Moscow. And again, a lot of our plaintiffs are not plaintiffs anymore because they did get a successful transfer to places like Warsaw, but those are going to fill up. Again, they're going to fill up, and some of you can't either afford to or can't get to Warsaw or some other country. So we would, tell you to keep trying, but we're going to keep doing that same thing. So we've got your back. Now, Jeff, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this. Maybe you get mad at me, but there's another K1 case kind of out there, isn't there?
Yes. There
do
is.
you want to talk about that, or do you want to keep it under double secret?
No, I think we're ready to go on it. So I think we should talk about it.
All right, K1 London.
We'll let Greg talk about this one.
Greg,
he hasn't contributed yet.
And so we have we've had a lot of plaintiffs from in the Milligan case from London. It must be one of the most popular countries for K1s based on the activity that we've had. But we gauge basically interest in these cases to some extent based on that waiting list form, and we were trying to figure out if there was enough interest to justify that case, and there is, and we're going to be starting to onboard that soon. When the beginning of these cases, when we're preparing for it, that FAQ document that you guys have seen in your cases is really a pretty critical document where we lay out the theory of the case and how it's going to work and all of that stuff. And that language is all cleared now, I believe, on there. That has gone through all the firms, and so now that that's done, I can start to build the apps, which will hopefully make for a smooth onboarding. And then after that, the timeline is usually need a few days to build the apps. Then we will onboard. Typically, what are we going to do? 2 weeks here? Is that the plan? That's
Whatever you want, Greg, honestly.
Yeah. So usually we do about 2 weeks, especially if it's a group that is got pretty tight social media, and the London Facebook groups, and that community seems to be pretty tight. So that's probably what we'll do. And then usually after the onboarding is over, we need about a week to 10 days to actually prepare and file the suit. So that's the timeline we're going to be looking at.
Terrific. We're excited about that. Lily, I know, is excited about that.
Yeah.
And we're going to hopefully we'll get that out on the Twitter. We'll get that out everywhere so you can get that information. And we will email the people that signed up directly. So they will get that as well.
Yeah, and we'll have people that are from the Kinsley case, which we're going to be talking about, can also separately participate.
Yeah, we will reach out to the Kinsley K1 separately. We don't want to talk about that here. We're going to reach out to you with the special information. All right. Let's talk about. I actually didn't spell that right. You're going to ask me, how do you not spell that right? Let's talk about the EB5 Fong case. Government counsel did not answer my call today. I left a message for him. I haven't heard back. He is 3 hours earlier than me, so it's really quite possible. I'm bringing back Waleed. It's really quite possible we talk later tonight because he's usually available more in the afternoon. So I'll talk to government counsel to find out where he is. Now, I know that Fong folks have brought up some other crazy stuff besides the sputum test that they now make Chinese folks take in Guangzhou, which takes 8 weeks to get an answer, which, of course, if you didn't get the sputum test last month, you're not getting an EB5, right? Instead of the blood test, which takes a week and is more accurate on tuberculosis, or frankly, even X-ray. But there's another rule they're putting into place as well, which is equally crazy, which basically means that nobody can get visas. Now, Jeff and Greg, did you see that crazy memo that supposedly says that F1s and Js can't get visas because China won't accept people back? Did you guys see that at all? Anybody said that to you? It looked like something clearly issued in the Trump administration. I don't think it was issued now. It seemed to be old, but some people are claiming that it's real. But I haven't.
Yeah, I remember I think there was a discussion on Twitter, and you had asked about the date on it.
Yeah, and I never got on it. There is no date on it, and that's why, to me, it's very suspicious about what it actually is. And so for me, I don't think that's real, and I don't think, frankly, the Biden administration really cares whether you're taking back anybody. Honestly, I really don't think they care. So at this point, I'm not going to worry about that, but we will bring up with the government counsel this new crazy rule. Government's brief is due next week. Our counter brief, our reply is due shortly thereafter, and then we will have, I assume, argument in front of the judge pretty quickly on that. So I think the judge will rule pretty quickly on that. I think we're going to win that easily, and he'll have to force them to do interviews quickly. They'll have to figure out that stuff. Now, Greg and I talked about this last week. I'm 100% confident Congress is going to extend the EB5 program. They're not going to let billions of dollars just disappear. They're just not going to do that. And so we'll probably get, Greg, I think you mentioned this as a temporary 3-month extension, put it back into the fiscal year end. Have you heard anything more on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to make probably the doctors unhappy, but they may put it back on the same sync with the R1, with the religious workers and the doctors. I think that the EB5 folks think that the doctors are dragging them down. The doctors think the EB5 folks are doing it to them. So it was kind of nice having them separated and basically being extended on their own. But they're probably going back to being linked up again, and that would mean that the program will get extended until September. And then after that, we'll see what happens. They've historically have only been extending these programs a few months at a time.
So there we go. Next, we want to do an update on Gomez and Acker. Gomez, of course, is the umbrella case of which our case Acker is in. Aaron, did you know that we have 12 plaintiffs left in Acker? 4 families, 12 human beings, and every one of them didn't get their visas only because they couldn't get to the consulate because their country would not let them leave to the neighboring country to get it. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be in the Acker case anymore because all our clients would have gotten their visa. But as it is, not only do we have 12 plaintiffs, but we also have the class action request for people whose visas were not reissued. And I got to tell you, I think there's probably over 500 of those people. The only people who know how many is the Department of State. And they have been refusing to disclose that information. So I'm going to be really interested in hopefully Judge Maida setting an oral argument. But now, look, remember everybody screaming at me because, hey, put them on the same day. Here we are 3 weeks later. No oral argument, no decision, getting closer and closer to July 13th. Don't be surprised, even though we've all said we needed something now. Don't be surprised. And it's not my fault. I mean, heck, you should thank me. We're going to have argument. At least we brought it up to him. So that's kind of where Gomez Acker is. And yes, for asking for more than 9,095 visas. And no, we don't know when it will be. Sorry. So there we go. I do want to mention the 01 lawsuit. We of course, dismissed Tate because our clients got their visas. We had an intake for almost a month on the new 01 case. 7 people. We can't go forward with 7 people. So I talked to one of the folks today. We're going to go forward on her case individually. She has a great case in London to go forward individually. For the rest, we're going to not go forward with that case.
Yeah, I mean, just so you know, on that, we'll make that decision probably in the next couple of days, and then we'll just refund people's funds immediately. Yeah. Or if they want to sue individually, we'll apply it to that. So
we'll reach out to you, but they just don't have enough. Unless magically people sign up today, Greg, I just don't see us getting enough people. Even though we know there's got to be dozens of 01s out there that are.
But it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder that there's no reason for that in these cases where your group is just not very big that you can't sue individually.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, just to add to that, listen, the only reason to sue in a group case really is to save money. I mean, you're going to get better attention and better results if you sue individually.
Yeah. Call your lawyer and say, they're not doing this. And they'll say, okay, I'll deal with that.
Yeah.
We can't do that with a lot of people. It just makes it easier when lots of people are in. And of course, it brings home the attention because the key part of all these lawsuits are not just the lawsuit, is it, Jeff? It's also the publicity and the press and getting the focus of the Biden administration, the people in the White House to say, why is the Department of State getting sued 68 times for the same reason? What's going on there, Mr. Blinken? How are you running your ship into the ground? So getting press is really, really important on this stuff. But Jeff, I did want to mention one other thing today, and this is actually pretty big news, and it just happened literally a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so this is a pro bono case that we are taking on, all of us, Impact Litigation, with American Immigration Lawyers Association. As if, the Department of Labor rule to change the wages altogether was not enough that we sued them on last year. They also passed a separate rule to change the H-1B lottery. Just so you know, there's only 66,000 H-1B visas available every year, and 65,000 visas available every year. And those are available on October 1st, but you can register for those before October 1st. And it becomes this mad race to get to those 65,000 number H-1Bs. And so when that happens, there's, massive amounts of filings. This year, there were over 300,000 filings for those 60,000 spots. They're talking about changing it to a wage-based system. So the higher you pay, the more likely you are to get selected in the lottery, which is really great for the Amazons and Googles and IBMs of the world, but not so great for small rural medical clinics where they have to employ doctors and dentists and others. So, we thought that this was a really kind of slimy way to decide who should get H-1Bs, and it's the very definition of arbitrary. The other fun part of the case,
illegal.
Yeah, it's completely contrary to the statute. It's completely arbitrary. The other fun part of the case is that it was implemented by Chad Wolf, And Chad Wolf was never properly appointed in his position. And so part of the argument we're making is that the entire policy, the entire memo, the entire rule is invalid from its beginning because it was never authorized by somebody who had authority to authorize it. And that argument has been accepted by a number of courts to strike down other rules.
There was, I don't know if you sent around on Friday, there was a federal magistrate, I think out in California, talking about this. I don't think it's even possible for the new secretary that has been properly appointed to verify this is a good thing. I don't think it's legal.
Yeah, they have to start from scratch.
The case is Humane Society of New York versus Mayorkas.
Yes, that's right. The Humane Society. Yes, the Humane Society does in fact use H-1B visas. And I don't know, if, Greg, I know this is somebody you've helped with over the years, and
it's my favorite pro bono client.
Yeah, it's a great pro bono client. They don't pay $190,000 to a vet.
I love what they do is so important. So
it's vital. So it's a great case. We're going to win that. Now let's not confuse this.
We filed 2 separate federal lawsuits today, just to put it out there. It's pretty remarkable.
Kind of fun stuff. Now there is another. I'm using this header for double duty because there is the other H-1B lottery case that we've talked to some folks about and we're analyzing. And this is the idea that this year's lottery, in which over 300,000 people applied for the first time. I mean, like 80,000 more than normal applied. And it turns out that a lot of people applied a lot of times. And they were able to do that.
You can game it.
Game the system, right? So the question is it legal to game the system? And that's the H-1B lottery question. One employer can only file for one employee. So they can only file for Mr. Jones once. But if Mr. Jones gets 12 different employers to file for him, that may be, if you read the regulation, that's legal. Although when you read the statute, it might not be legal. So we're looking at that issue. We haven't had a lot of folks sign up yet to be plaintiffs in a case like that. But we're looking at it. We know it. We'll send a update around for an enrollment on that shortly on the website. But I want you to know that's kind of out there.
Chuck, would you explain sort of what the remedy would look like, what relief would look like for people that if we were successful, what we'd be asking for?
That's a great question, Greg. And so the remedy depends on information we don't have. We don't know how many people USCIS has notified in round 1 of this year's lottery that they can submit an H-1B application. Presumably, they have used viable statistical methods to determine, based on prior experience, how many people will file when invited and how many will be granted, and will thus get to the limit for 20,000 masters and 65,000 regular cases and bachelor's cases. But based upon last year's lottery, we know they had to have another round. Let's call it round 2. We don't know what that looks like. So the first remedy we would request is that before round 2 is announced, that they eliminate duplicate entries. That would be request number 1. Don't know if that would happen. We'll be filing pretty close to when that might be happening, but that would be request number 1. Request number 2 is there is a cap gap problem. For those individuals who filed an H-1B and did not get picked, the current immigration policy is that they are not covered by the cap gap. Although arguably, if they get notified for the round 2, they would be protected under cap gap. And there might even be a round 3 in September. Would they be protected by their cap gap? So we'll be asking for clarification of how that the cap gap should protect individuals up until the last H-1B for the year is issued for the 65,000. So they're not accruing unlawful presence during that time and can continue working. So
the other thing to watch out for on this case is, if we have 3 lotteries, let's say we do have 3 rounds of lottery, that's going to take the filing way beyond October 1st, right? And decisions on cases will be issued way back to October 1st. Cap gap only covers you till October 1st. So, you know, you're going to have a bunch of people that are like, I have to be laid off from my job unless you adjudicate my H-1B like right now.
They'll have to file a mandamus action against the USCIS. And then, but really, we don't know if the court will give us any of that. Our legal arguments they're not like, it's not like the Go case where, you know, you have to issue the damn visas. Okay. It just has to be done. This is unique. This has not been filed before. There's no precedent on this. So we'll be creating new law.
And I think your question, Greg, is a really good one because, you know, you could join this lawsuit and be really unhappy with the ultimate remedy. I mean, the ultimate remedy could be like, okay, it's illegal. We'll just do it differently next year.
Right. And that actually
benefit
or they could have a supplemental lottery where basically they say, you know, 2,000 of these were not correctly issued on here, and we're gonna have a lottery for those extra 2,000. But you're basically still in a lottery.
Right. Yeah. So you got that. Now, the other thing we'd be asking for, and this is really not an ask to the judge, what we're doing by filing this is putting USCIS on notice that, one, they have a fraud problem. If in fact, like we believe the law requires you to only be allowed to put one person counted in the lottery each year. But it also puts Congress on notice that this is happening. Maybe there'll be some hearings. Maybe Mr. Grassi will be a little angry about this when he finds out that this is happening. Because I don't think this is really, it's clearly did not happen at this volume before. It probably happened before, but it hasn't happened at this volume before. And so we've got evidence of it. And so it's really this is the next year issue of fixing.
There's a reason, which is that when you have to file, when it only costs $10 to file a simple form versus having to put together a whole H-1B petition. I personally think it's, better policy probably not to make somebody file a complete petition that's going to be thrown in the garbage can on there. But it had, there's a happy medium for a way that you can develop a system like this.
$10 might not be a high enough entry fee, is what you're saying.
Or you have you just put limits on that one unless a very narrow circumstances, somebody could have more than one application, like concurrent H-1Bs or something like that. But other than that, just that one per customer.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, and we'll see. But that's kind of the purpose of the lawsuit that we hope to put together if we get enough plaintiffs. So we think it's a really unique argument. I think it'd be a lot of fun to litigate that issue. But really, it's the politics of it that actually make it quite interesting. So that's our very long update today. And I think we did a really good job.
Did we get to Kinsley?
Oh, my goodness. How did I forget Kinsley? Hold on a second.
Oh, my goodness.
I knew I would have forgotten something. Let me get my Kinsley.
Now you have to type. You have to type it in the banner.
I know. I got to get. The thing is, this app only allows you 50 banners. And I just hit the 50th banner. So
surely you can delete something.
I just got back and deleted it. And now we're going to add Kinsley. Here we go, Kinsley.
Hey, okay.
So where are we with Kinsley? Who wants to take this one?
I can take it. So we are next week going to file a motion to amend the complaint to add India because India is now a proclamation country. And so we are going to add India next week. And that will be shortly followed up with a motion for summary judgment, which is basically, judge based on the evidence and the discovery of which there's not a lot, just a bunch of memos. We think we win. And here's the reasons we win. And then the government will respond with the reasons they think they win. And then we'll get a final decision. And hopefully all the proclamations will be struck down.
Remember, Kinsley was only a proclamation case.
Well, we're not striking down the proclamation. We're striking down an aspect of the proclamation.
Yeah, the 212F aspect of it.
Just the visa ban part of it. The Hawaii v. Trump has something to say about the proclamations that we're not trying to get that Supreme Court case overturned.
That's right. So we're not making an argument about entry, just about visa issue.
What stuns me is that they appear to. This is where it's still unclear for us. India, they appear not to be issuing visas. Like they did not learn a lesson. You literally can't win this case. Why are you making us amend the case to put India in there? It seems crazy to me. Yeah. It seems crazy. So are we missing anything else? The other case I missed, Aaron's got one.
Before we go to questions, I've seen a number in the comments that say I didn't get the email about Go. Can we put on Michael's email address one more time so people know who to email if they didn't get the email.
Okay, I'll do that again right here. I have to recreate his email because that's the one I deleted.
Oh, never use that one.
No worries.
While you're doing that, Chuck, I looked up because I knew I had read that thing about China, and it is true that China, the Attorney General, can notify a government of a foreign country that if they are unreasonably delaying the repatriation of people from their country, in this case China, that they can sanction them by forbidding the issuance of both immigrant and non-immigrant visas.
Yeah, that was a popular thing in the Trump administration on there. That it had been the law for a long time, but Trump was the first person to actually aggressively use it.
Yeah, so there are some rumors that it's been employed in China.
Yeah, but it seemed weird to me that the Biden administration would employ that.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed very strange.
I don't know that it's all that strange. I still don't understand why we have a COVID ban on China.
Well, and also the Biden administration just yesterday issued that memo on communism.
Yeah, China. I mean, I think that they're using immigration a bit as a leverage point for other things that they're negotiating, and I don't see them loosening up anything on China while they're pursuing whatever is on that agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Universities and colleges are going to get really angry here starting in about July.
Well, the Biden administration usually caves.
Yeah, well, that's true.
It's when they get pressure, but right now, that's I know this is on recording, but I'm sorry, but it's true that they have to be sued a lot of times to do the right thing.
Okay. Gus says we haven't sent out a copy of the government's motion to dismiss in Milligan.
The reason I can't is because it contains personal identifying information, and I'm concerned about that. So
okay, there you go. We've got Yasona. We are the rescue team. That's kind of a cool name. I like the Avengers better. Has anybody used the Avengers yet? Is that? I'm check. Would you check the trademark on that, Greg? Meezy's back. Oh yeah. Okay. So we just sent that out. We just gave that to you. Here is again. Put the email up. There it is. mmckay@visalaw.com.
Yeah, don't email Michael unless you did not get I can see people emailing him saying, Chuck told me to email you. And only if you didn't get the email that was sent out earlier today asking you to fill out the little update form, that will take you 2 minutes.
Okay. Saint Sent, which is a new saint from Eastern Europe, I believe. Good question. If the government would adjudicate all the Go plaintiffs to dismiss them, great.
We'd be done.
Yeah, we'd be done. They're not going to do that, though. So
don't worry about that.
It's not going to happen. Let's see. Is joining the London K1 the best for K plaintiffs? Again, we talked. Go back to that K1 London, and Jeff talked about that extensively. Okay. Let's see here. I like this one. What is the implication of Judge Mehta's silence? There is no implication of Judge Mehta's silence. He's just busy. That's really. I can imagine the judge goes home at night. I want you to keep those Gomez plaintiffs guessing. Don't do anything. That's not doing that. Let's see.
Can I say one comment about the London question from a minute ago?
Yeah, of course.
On there. So we're largely, in terms of what you can expect, the hope is that we can get basically something similar to what we got in Milligan for those plaintiffs in terms of they're not in the Milligan plaintiffs. It's been up or down as far as how fast it's gone, but generally speaking, our London cases have moved. Most of our London, there are still a number of exceptions to that, but most of the London people are here or they have appointments scheduled coming up over the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, actually through July 13th, actually, is what I looked at today. There's people scheduled in London July 13th. So, but there is one thing I learned today about London. I did not know this. If you had an interview last summer, June, July, August, they canceled you and set you up for this year. So I learned that today from an 01 client that's going to sue individually, that they took her from last August, put her in this August. What we don't know is if that's a real date or if this is like a notice to appear where they just put a fake date on it. We just don't know. We will find out soon when we sue them over that issue. Now, this is a good question, Gru Marco. The number of total plaintiffs in the consolidated cases, I have no idea. We have 12. The Gomez lawyers have none of the original plaintiffs. I mean, none, but they are class counsel. So technically, everybody's a plaintiff. You know, they have 50,000 plaintiffs in the case, technically. And that's the team from Ayla and Karen Tumlin and those folks from out west. They are handling that case. I have no idea how many Mr. Morrison has on his cases. Let's see. This is a good question. Jeff, you want to take this one? This is good.
If we were planning one of the K1 case and report from an outlet asking for an interview, absolutely 100%. You should use the media as much as possible. And we've seen plaintiffs who had stories in the media that, you know, it helped their cases. So absolutely, you should definitely reach out to the media. If you would like one of the attorneys to comment, just have the reporter send us an email, and one of us will respond very quickly.
All right, that's kind of fun.
The human interest parts of these are you'd be surprised how persuasive they are, because, you know, we post the human interest stories on our Twitter feeds, and people see them, so they're important to know the story behind the lawsuit. And
it's amazing. We put it on our Facebook page. We put it everywhere on social media, so it's a good thing to get that. This is a good case. So you're a Moscow plaintiff. The case was transferred to Warsaw. If we get an order going back to, they'll transfer your case back to Moscow. But if you've got an appointment before the judge rules on the case, in Warsaw, obviously take the appointment. Don't go back to Moscow. Moscow is a black hole. I mean, just understand, they're not allowed to send more consular officers physically to Moscow because of the tit for tat going on between the U.S. and Moscow. So Russia limits the number of employees at a consulate, just like we do. So the solution for Moscow is either to transfer to a third country or to do video interviews out of Washington, D.C. I mean, one of those two is a legitimate solution for them. We'll see which they end up doing. Carolina, we gave the pen update. Look for K1 Brazil, and that'll be there. Greg, just so you know, your reply domain, I guess, has a high spam count. What you don't know, Greg Siskin owns the oldest immigration law website in the world. Greg was the very first lawyer of any kind to have a website. Any kind. Greg is literally a pioneer. I'm not going to count those guys in Arizona, by the way. They were spam artists. No, Greg is, he was literally immigration. Well, Greg, what were you like 10 years old when you did that? It's been around forever, VisaLaw.com.
I was young.
It's a good case. It's a good case. All right. Remaining round 3 plaintiffs in London. Again, Greg just talked about that a few minutes ago. There are some and again, we're working that. Clearly the consulate's working it too. What I don't get, maybe Jeff can input on this. There appears to be no rhyme or reason sometimes about why somebody's scheduled and somebody's not. Why KCC gets their over fast or not.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you what I have theories.
I love theories.
If you've had a previous marriage, okay, they look into those, especially if it was a previous marriage in London, right? They're going to look at public records to make sure you're properly divorced and there's no question that you're still in a relationship. If you have any criminal history on either side, even the petitioner, that could cause a delay. Things like that is what I think may be the reason that some round 3 are getting scheduled and others are not. That's my theory.
Yeah, the theories are solid.
It might be good to mention a little bit about sort of administrative processing, because it does come up in some of our mandamus cases where things are kind of moving along, and then all of a sudden somebody gets interviewed, and then they're put in administrative processing, and then they come to us basically wanting us to try and speed up administrative processing. Yeah. Maybe you can talk a little bit of sort of like what we're able to do and not do when somebody's put in administrative processing, because there might be some confusion.
Yeah. So you're going to get, many of you will get, if you go to your interview, you'll get everything will seem like it went really well, and then you'll get a letter that looks like a denial, and it's not. It's a 221G letter, and it says refusal. Okay, and refusal sounds really scary, but that's because your case, there's something that they need to investigate. Sometimes it's as simple as, I'm a junior adjudicator and I'm not allowed to sign off on my own work. So I have to check with this with the supervisor. So I can't give you a decision right now. That's what it could be. But because they can't give you a decision, they have to give you this 221G letter because the regs require them to give you something in writing. And so the refusal, don't freak out. It just means that they're investigating something. Some people get a decision 2 weeks later. Others, there is an investigation. It could take some time. And there's really not much we can do about a case in administrative processing. What we're doing is what we've already done, which is the mandamus. That's really
so it's really a refusal to finish as opposed to a denial.
Right.
Now, if an administrative processing lasts 6 months or a year, then you can file a separate lawsuit against them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, I mean, there are countries where that is routine.
And I don't even think you need to file a separate lawsuit. I mean,
no, I agree.
If you're already in a mandamus, we would just scream and yell.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to continue to inquire and push the government to finish up adjudication on your case. But if you're in administrative processing, Jeff mentioned a couple of reasons why that might be the case. There's a black hole of security. So if something comes up that there's a security question, they are not going to finish until they're done doing their investigation. And you're not going to usually get a whole lot of sympathy from a judge to speed it up if there's anything that's security related that they're working on. But most of these, I think we're right. I mean, they're relatively small things that clear up quickly, unless they, and sometimes you have no idea, and sometimes you do on there. So.
There are countries that are notorious for administrative processing, Pakistan being among them, where it's not unusual to have one last 6 months easily. Now, here's a good question. I like this question because, Aaron, this actually goes to the main point of please respond to our email. Will the government move on these cases? Well, one of the things I think they will do, if they're smart, is they will make sure the KCC is done with the case. Because when the judge does order that these visas be issued, and our plaintiffs, of course, will be the ones benefiting from this, the Department of State doesn't want to have to tell the judge, well, we didn't really look into the KCC stuff, and it's going to take us 2 months to get those docs. So, yes, I do think cases, I don't know if they'll be interviewed, but I think it will make the KCC move forward. That's what I think.
So we've already had some plaintiffs get interviewed. So.
Yeah, we did. We actually have, right? So are you aware that India is interviewing K1s or processing K1s, even though they're closed? Actually, I was not aware of that. But India's only been closed for 2 weeks. So I'm just kind of curious how that's happening. And these consulates are literally closed. I mean, they're closed. But
they close, but they still do. I mean, some of them still do emergency processing. Like when they were during the height of COVID, we were still getting doctor cases adjudicated.
Yeah.
So they're not doing routine appointments, but they will do, even if they're closed, they still have sometimes people.
This points out that it's the consulate that makes apparently the final decision on what visas gets processed and when. Mm-hmm. It's not coming out of Washington, D.C. So if somebody in India at one of the consulates says, we need to get these K1s done, that's clearly coming from the local office and not from D.C. So
can I go back to Kinsley for a minute and say something about Kinsley? Because, I think a lot of people are like, well, why did we file Kinsley? What did we get out of Kinsley? And one thing to note now is that if the proclamation was not struck down as it relates to K1s and immigrant visas and all these others, what's going on at the consulates with regard to NIEs right now is a disaster. It is a disaster. You need to expect that if you have to do an NIE right now, it's going to take you 30 days to get one. So, the advantage of filing and being in Kinsley is that we got that quick decision striking down. I know that some of you are still subject to the proclamation, but it did strike down wide swaths of you. So,
and Atlanta, just as FYI, Atlanta just stopped processing these cases. By the way, I did want to mention, I was going to mention that slipped my mind. It's gone. Representative Rizvi, this actually goes to DV 2017 to 19 of the Iranian Muslim ban, Yemeni Muslim ban. Representative Ritchie from New York just introduced a bill to recapture those numbers and give those people an opportunity to apply for DV. And I think it's called Honoring Our Commitment Act or something. And so we'll be reaching out to him, at least I will, to see if they will add DV 2020 and DV 2021 once we get the end result of our litigation. Really, all this is subject to litigation. So I don't want to give Judge Maida a reason not to issue the order. So we're going to hold off for now. But congrats to those people advocating for DV 17 to 19 to get over the Muslim ban issue here. Let's see. Questions that aren't duplicates here. A lot of these we've already offered here. I'm still on 618. I'm not even anywhere near the bottom of our list here. I mean, should you flood Blinken with individual lawsuits? I mean, honestly, if you're not part of our group, sue them. I mean, sue them.
Yeah. I mean, this going back to the 68 number, I was shocked by that number. That does not, to me, given the mess at the consulates globally, that number seems really, really small to me. Now, granted, we have massive cases.
That can't be all the individual suits.
I think it is. It is, because some of our individual suits were included in it.
Uh-huh.
So, So
it's a very long footnote.
Yeah. So yes, I think it's a good idea to sue individually. Here's what we know is that the Department of State is fighting back. When we used to tell you, 6 months ago, file these, they're going to settle in 60 days. With these consular cases, that's probably no longer the case. They probably are going to fight them, but I don't think they're going to fight them very hard. And I also don't think they have a lot of arguments to make. I mean, there's really not a lot of arguments they can make on the other side. So 100%.
Here's something, Jeff. Make sure if you have been interviewed or you're going for an interview, try to get the name of the consular officer.
Yes. One of the dumb arguments they're making, this is literally just dumb. I'm gonna label it as DUM, dumb. That literally their argument is, well, a consular officer under the statute is the only one that can make a decision. So your case should be dismissed because you didn't sue the consular officer. You only sued the Department of State. That's like something my kindergartner would say when he was trying to blame his sibling for doing something. Well, I only ate the smaller half of the cookie, not the bigger half.
So you can't sue me. Here's our last question today. Now, Cody, we need to know how you know this.
Yeah.
Because if this is really true, this is really happening, we can include this in our motions, in our preliminary injunction requests, in our talks to the government, because this points out that people aren't getting equal treatment under the law. And that's kind of illegal too. So if you can email Aaron, No.
Aaron's dealing with Go right now.
No, that's right. Go.
You email me and I'll get it to you.
Just Jeff, not all of us. If you got proof of this, we need it. I mean, it could be Facebook captures, whatever you have. If you have proof of this, we want this. Okay.
I mean,
it's not enough.
I mean, exactly. It's interesting, and I would love to know it. But as Chuck pointed out to me the other day, the website for the consulate says right at the front that all interviews are canceled until further notice. So
let us know. Team Manila, get us those documents. All right, everybody. Thank you for Jeff. Don't hang up right away, Jerry. Don't hang up right away. But we want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next Monday night with our weekly update. Tomorrow we have Mr. Siskin at 7 p.m. Central.
Yes.
Wednesday, I'll be on at 3 p.m. Eastern. Jeff and Aaron and the Joseph Law Firm will be on Thursday at noon Mountain Time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And then I have something Friday. We'll have a lot of fun. But if anything comes up, we will notify you. We'll send out the blast. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.